Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. It's a few months late, but I'm finally uploading the painting process for the Alucard drawing that I don't completely hate. It's, as they say, third time's the charm, but since Alucard is one of my favourite Castlevania characters, I wanted to do him justice. And would you look at this? Actual line art, that's how you know I must be desperate. As a bit of background, I watched the second season of Castlevania Nocturne at the start of the year and wanted to do fan arts of all four main characters and make them into prints, but if you've seen my failure as an artist video, you'll know that it was kind of a struggle. I started off with Richter and I actually didn't hate how he came out, so I went to try and draw Alucard next, but it was such a huge slog to try and draw him. Nothing seemed to come out right and I just couldn't get him to look the way I wanted him to. I think maybe because I tried it as a grayscale to colour drawing, which is my nemesis. I can never figure out how to get it to look right. I think I also find it kind of hard to draw men in general for some reason, probably because I mostly draw women, but I feel like they usually have something missing whenever I try and draw them, which means I probably just need to practice drawing them more. Anyway, eventually I just gave up on the Alucard painting and moved on to Maria and Annette. I was really happy with how Maria turned out, especially with the pink colour scheme, but I ended up struggling a lot with Annette as well. I think it's because the first time I drew her, I felt like she didn't match the vibe of the previous two paintings and looked a little bit too cartoony. Plus, I loved how she looked so much in the Nocturne series, so I kind of felt like I wasn't doing her justice either. I did eventually manage to also draw an Annette that I thought was okay, but I don't have the recording for that because the painting was stressing me out too much. Obviously, at that point, the only character left was Alucard, so I tried to draw him again, but I absolutely hated that one too. Or rather, I started off liking it more and then gradually hated it more and more as I went along. I decided to just give up and stick with the trio as prints for the next artist alleys that I was doing, but I got asked about whether or not I had an Alucard print quite a lot, which isn't really surprising since he's probably the most popular Castlevania character and the only one who's in both series. Even though I wasn't feeling very motivated at the time to make new art, I was also inspired by some of the artists that I follow who were making preparations and new prints for MCM London, which I was also going to, so I decided that I had to figure Alucard out. By the way, I will be making another artist alley video at some point, so stay tuned for that. I will not be promising any time frames since I kind of have to study for like actual exams, but it is on the list. I already knew I wanted to have a red colour scheme going on, since with all the other Castlevania art I did, there was sort of one main colour for the piece. So with Richter it was blue, with Maria it was pink, and with Annette it was yellow, and I wanted to make it like a set with Alucard having his own colour. I didn't want it to just be black and white, so I settled with red because it matches his sword when it's on fire, and I just copied and pasted in the burning sword from the last Alucard that I drew because I thought it looked cool and I wanted to have it in the piece, but I didn't see a point in drawing it again. I also knew I wanted Alucard to be facing forward because if you put all the art together, it's kind of like they're turning around in one full circle. I was basically going for a pale and washed out look for him, kind of like how he appears in Nocturne, because I really like the art style, even though overall I prefer the original Castlevania in terms of the story and stuff. I thought it would be nice to try out some high contrast lighting with sharp shadows since he's so pale. It was a little tricky rendering the hair to add volume without ruining the washed out look that I was going for, but I got around it by shading with lighter colours and just keeping it relative. So the colour I used to render the hair is still quite light, but relative to the highlights it's darker. That was quite fun, so I might experiment with more pastel / lighter pieces at some point, we shall see. Also, the lighter shading on the hair is still different to the ambient occlusion shadows and cast shadows, which I made a lot darker to convey that Alucard was being lit with a very bright light, which tends to cast harsher shadows, like what you can see on the red background. I was also flip-flopping between how much reflected light from the red background I wanted on the character, because again, I didn't want to ruin the washed out look, and I think I eventually decided to just leave it out. Probably less realistic in terms of what the lighting would actually be like, as a bright light would bounce off the red background and reflect red onto the character, but I preferred the vibe of Alucard just not being very colourful at all, and therefore contrasting more with the saturated colour of the background. I'm actually really happy with how he turned out, you know, and I'm glad I didn't give up on trying to draw him. Not to mention, it was also a very good business decision because in the last 2 cons alone, I sold over 50 Alucard prints. He is single-handedly keeping my small business dreams alive. Again, I'm going to make another video at some point about my recent experiences doing conventions, but since I'll be taking a break from them for a while, I may as well shamelessly promote myself here and let you guys know that I set up an Etsy shop to help clear stock of my prints. So if you're in the UK and would like an Alucard print, he is available on my shop. Realistically, I don't think he looks that different to the first 2 times I tried to draw him, so I'm not sure why I like this version more than the other 2. I guess it's a bit like a final Pokemon evolution. At long last, he has reached his peak form. I think being able to draw this fan art in a way that I actually like was a nice boost in confidence, because I feel more up for trying to do more. I think having to do fan art of an existing animated or drawn character who I can compare my own artwork to can in some aspects make it harder, because I don't feel like I'm doing the character justice. I do still feel like my own artwork is still missing something that still keeps it from looking magical, but I'm still trying to figure out what it is. I've been trying to target areas that I know I'm weaker in, like backgrounds and colours and lighting and men and composition and perspective and values and anatomy. Basically, I still have a long way to go. I think I need to try and look at art from other people that I really like and see what they all have in common. What do you guys think? If I'm not able to identify what's missing, maybe you guys can. Is there something you'd like to see? Oh my gosh, there's people outside having a beep off. Is there something you'd like to see from my art, or an area you think I could improve on specifically? Hopefully it's not that I need to spend more time making my paintings more sleek and polished, because I think that's the one thing I won't be able to do. For some reason, I physically cannot make myself spend more than 8 to 9 hours on an artwork. My average these days is around 4 hours, because after that all my motivation evaporates and there's nothing that will get it back. Though I suppose the better I get at drawing and painting, the faster I'll be able to do things, and my art will naturally start looking more polished earlier in the process. Well, I guess I'll just keep going until something clicks, since it's worked for me before. I used to not be able to render hair at all, and then one day, just suddenly, I knew how to render hair. There was absolutely no transition period whatsoever between me not knowing how to draw hair and me being able to draw hair. Also eyes. One day I was suddenly just like, eyes are round. Game changer, let me tell you. So if that could just happen again, that would be great. But yeah, I have a few more study painting processes that I'm going to upload to my channel, and I'm very slowly working on my Dracula summary and of course the Artist Alley video. So if any of those things seem interesting to you, please do like, comment or subscribe to get notified when they come out. Thanks for watching, bye. For some reason, I physically cannot make myself spend more than 8 to 9 hours on an artwork. Oh my gosh, they're still beeping. Beep beep.